John, Jason, Matthew, Patrick, and Thomas. You're next on episode 24 of the Reddit Golf Swing Analysis Series. Good evening once again, Line Golf Academy members and guests, and thank you for joining me for episode 24. If you are new to this series, what we do is we take swing evaluation submissions that were submitted to us either through this channel or through Reddit. And keep in mind, you do not have to follow Reddit to submit a video, so if you wish to have your swing evaluated, go ahead and submit a face on and down the line, and I will get right to that as soon as possible. Currently, we have about a 2-week waiting window, and we have enough videos now until episode 30, so keep that in mind when you submit this. Just have a little bit of patience. I do not know any of these students. I don't know their swings. I don't know their mechanics. I don't know their range of motion. So also keep that in mind when we go through this. This is purely just a cause and effect video to help enlighten them based on what I see. And obviously my view is not here or there. It's just a different perception. So the whole point of this is to help educate everybody just to see what really cause and effect does to somebody's swing. So let's get started really quickly though. If you do like this video, hit that like and subscribe. And also add a little comment for me if you wouldn't mind. Just let me know if you currently take lessons, if you don't take lessons, when was the last lesson you took, why you don't take lessons. I just want to get some feedback as well. So if you can give me that, I appreciate that. But let's get going. First, we have Jason. Now, Jason submitted his video. He just gave me down the line, so we're going to be a little bit limited here. No notes here, just says thanks for the resource. Let me know when you post it. Thank you very much. All right, Jason, so real quick, let's take a guess where you're from. I'm just going to say somewhere in Illinois, and I'm not sure why I said Illinois, but it just sounds good right now. So let's take a look. We're going to put some plane lines here, your back brace line. Let's look at your swing really quickly. That's a super quick swing. Okay, so you can see some posture loss already. You see that club getting sucked behind you. Looks like your shoulders are leveling out, which causes lower arm issues. So basically, I'm looking at your setup. Now, your setup looks a little hunched over with your shoulders. It's hard to see where you're lining to from this close where the camera works. So if you do send me down the lines, just try and post it up a little bit, maybe knee height or hip height, and pull it back just a little bit there so we can see where you're aligning. This worm eye view, we can make it work, but it's a little bit challenging sometimes. But if we take a look where your arms are kind of hanging down naturally, a little bit pushing out, and that's going to cause some havoc based on where gravity wants to take them as you turn. Obviously, if you just turn with your hands connected to your body and you let gravity help you, your arms come inside. But if they're already way out in front, they might start pulling back inside too much, and then we start having some issues here. Hips are, let's see, we're going to draw a line between your feet. So yeah, it's supporting your hips. I'd just say just maybe stand taller and a little bit, tiny bit closer, and let your arms hang down more naturally. But let's take a look at what this setup will cause. And it's hard to see where your ball position is because that front view really helps us with ball position. So we're just going to assume that that ball position is correct. As you take that club back, you're trying to turn, which I see you do. You stand against that back brace line, arms get sucked inside, and I'll kind of explain why in a second. Let me just pull up where your shoulders, I'll put a little line here. That's where your shoulders should be at the top of your swing in terms of the tilt, based on that bend at the top, at the start position. As you can see here, your shoulders have leveled out, which means your left shoulder is going higher than your right shoulder. And what that does is it puts your arms lower than they need to be. And you can see you kind of get stuck at the very top with these low arms. And they basically just match your shoulders. And from that position, your club face is a little bit shut to your forearm. And I'm assuming, look at that right leg straightening out and the left leg bowing in. You can probably see, if we had a face-on view, that your upper body is going to start tilting towards the target because of that pivot that you're pushing. And then from there, you don't really have much to push off on. Everything's kind of stuck outside this right hip. And from there, you're just kind of rocking. And from here, you have to kind of unrock and stand up and flip, which I presume you might do here. So we start seeing that club getting down into it, starting to lose a bit of posture here. So we see right there is where you strike it. Let's back up a little bit. So there's right where you strike it. And you try to return back to your impact, or excuse me, your address position, but we see a tiny bit of loss in your spine angle. You can see that spine angle starting to stand up. So it looks, it's close. I would say a lot of your issues are caused by shoulder tilt, where at the top of the swing, they were on a new shoulder tilt. So it looks like your shoulders are leveling out and then tilting again. So upper body's doing a little bit of this, when the upper body should just be doing this. So posture, check your alignment, check your posture, check your grip placement, check your ball position. I'm assuming it's correct, but who knows, it could be off, which is throwing everything off as well. Once you get started there, don't raise your left shoulder up because that pulls your arms in. Just go ahead and turn around your bend, and it should help you out. I hope that helps you. Overall, it looks pretty good though. I mean, you're balanced. You're not really losing balance, which is nice. You can see, there's no foot loss. The left foot stays planted. It looks like the weight goes towards the toe slightly on that left side, your lead side. But all in all, I mean, for the amount of motion that you have, there's very little going on here other than your shoulders kind of leveling out. So check that out. Hope that helps. Let's see who's next. Okay, next we have John. Now, I've gone ahead and drawn the lines before, so you don't have to keep watching me draw lines. But let's take a look at his swing here. Okay, really good. A little bit of raising going on there. And then we have to come down, right? If we raise, we have to come down. We're sitting. We're pulling upper body back. And all right, you make it work. I mean, this is definitely, I can see this being a repeatable motion. Okay, so a couple things here. You can tell that when you start in position to the top position, you can see your body's coming up, right? So now you have a new spine angle and your head's coming out of that box. You've flattened out your shoulder plane by standing up. I think you need to start in that position. So you need to start taller. It just looks like at the start of your position here, it looks very hunched over for a driver. You remember, you're trying to hit up on the driver, and when you're hunched over, you don't really have the room to go under, so you have to start standing up to create room for yourself to go under while you tilt and turn. So it looks like you're trying to listen to your body saying, hey, look, I'm trying to hit down, I'm trying to hit up on the ball, I need to create some room, what do I need to do to help myself out? So let me just stand up so I get at least more natural. So now you're in this spine angle. So that's a really good spine angle. Let's see what happens at the impact now. Now, because you have to go back down to your original spine angle, you kind of lost a little bit, but look how you're standing in that new spine angle. Now you're just basically turning on through. You're in that new spine angle. You're still on that brace line. Turning on through. Arms come out, reach that top plane line. So, hey man, this could be a quick fix here because the footwork, I mean, look at the footwork. So you're loading on that inside right heel, pushing off. Look at that toe coming up in the air, the left toe. So you definitely got the footwork correct. You're turning through, you're still tilting because look at that tilt, it's matching your plane line. I just see a little bit of up and down motion, and hopefully you can see that too. I mean, you had left coming up. I mean, look at that. We have to see from the front view because that might be affecting your tilt. But from this side, just stand taller and a little bit closer. Let the arms hang down more naturally, and we'll see how you're setting up on the front view. But this side looks pretty good. Ooh, let me guess where you're from. Missouri. Maybe. All right, John, let's take a look here. We got the lines up already, so you guys have to watch me do that all the time. Setup. Let's make sure we get you right before you hit the ball. Okay, that's where you set up. All right, so shoulders. Not a bad tilt there. It's a nice little tilt. Arms and hands, we're going to make a nice little triangle here. Let's draw that center point through the hands. Okay, it's pretty good. I mean, your hands are set up to the golf ball. Club face, I think we'll get there eventually if you just let your, right now you're setting up 3 or 4 golf balls behind you. But I think if you just extend that out, it looks pretty good, in other words. So don't change much in your ball position. It's pretty solid. Nice wide stance. You're about shoulder width. I look from the inside of the heels to see if that's shoulder width. So there's inside of the heels. There's one shoulder. There's inside of the heels. There's another shoulder. Looks really good. Okay, so setup is pretty solid. Let me see. Do you have any notes here? Give me one sec while I look it up. Okay, I just checked. No notes. So let's take a look. Taking it back. Pretty good one-piece takeaway. Okay, really solid. Lower body's looking really solid. You're just bracing that right brace line. You're getting a nice deep turn. Let's see what happens there. Yeah, you can see that little motion where you kind of stand up to right yourself. You just need to be there at the top of your swing without standing up. So, just set up again, taller, tiny bit closer, nothing crazy, just, taller, maybe 4 or 5 inches taller, alleviate that lower back pressure. And then you should be really good because you get a pretty good deep turn. But if you take a look here, I mean, that's basically where you should stop. And by you still standing up, your upper body kind of rocks towards that target. But look at that left hip. It's already firing. Dropping back in the target. Left hip meets that impact line. Slight bit of disconnection between your arms and your hands. So arms Should be a little bit closer to that right hip at this point, but not too bad. As you come down into it, pretty good. Look at that. Arms are reading that right hip and the club is parallel to the ground. Staying behind the ball. Swinging up on it. Hands just look a tiny bit restricted, so they look like they're just kind of glued to your upper body. I'm not sure if you are using drills where you think about the left arm kind of stuck, maybe the head cover drill or a towel drill or something like that. You know, they shouldn't be really that stuck, because look how much, you know, because now you can't really get that hands to release. So to help you release, you have to really turn, and look at that turn. That's a lot of turn. So that can bring some injuries to that left ankle and the left knee. Just be careful, because if you start spinning so much, that it has to be absorbed somewhere. So right now it's your joints. So left knee, left ankle could be absorbing a lot of joints. It looks slightly rotational, a little bit too much. So you don't need that much rotation. Just kind of let the hands catch up a little bit. Maybe keep them more connected on the way back. So, you know, remember, just big triangle. Keep your hands in front of that triangle as long as you can. But also let them release. You know, try not to release so much with the body. But all in all, pretty solid move. I would, if I had to guess your handicap, definitely single digits. But obviously I can't guess a handicap without looking at your short game. But that swing should at least put you in position to have a single digit handicap. So hopefully we're on the way. Let me know if that helps, if you need some more clarification in the comments. But good luck to you. Solid swing. Keep it up. Make those small changes. And hopefully your cause and effect will get closer to what you want to be. Let's see who's next. Notes. Just need some analyzing going on here. Working on coming from the inside, staying in balance and posture. Now, does that mean that you're trying to come from the inside, or maybe too much? But we'll take a look. Still hitting the occasional, we don't like this word, the occasional S word. We call those hosel fades here. Fought a slice all last season that I managed to turn into a hook with a stronger grip. Could that be a quick fix, or did you actually make the correct change? We'll take a look. But I've weakened the grip a bit now, and the ball is leaking right again. All right, so let's take a look. I'm gonna do face on, just make sure the ball position's correct. You can see that thing's connecting to the lead arm. Now that should be, if you guys watch this regularly, you know that's kind of a pet peeve of mine, because usually, you know, we take a look at hands here. That ball position based on that setup should be 3 or 4 golf balls ahead based on that tilt. So when you start forward pressing, you know, I'll get off my soapbox pretty soon, but when you start forward pressing, then put your hands in a position where they have to maintain that angle, and the only way to maintain that angle is to really overturn and over tilt. If you don't do that, you're going to hit a lot of heavy shots, you're going to have a lot of contact misses. So if you start overturning and over tilting, that's going to mess with your playing now. Now you're going to have severe misses every now and then. You might rope hook it, you might even do that deadly S word that we don't want to talk about. So let's just take a look at what you tend to do. I'm going to leave that impact line. It's going to be your left arm line. Let's take a look. Okay, looks pretty good there. Getting on there. There goes that increased tilt to hold those hands. Hold those hands. Hold those hands. Now they release. Okay. Pretty decent. Now, I don't mean decent as like a derogatory thing. I mean decent in terms of trying to hold that release. You know, so you do get the shaft lean. Now, do you really need that forward press? I don't think you do. I think that's creating a little bit of a havoc for you, because you can't really release the club face. So your body has to now release it a lot. So let's take a look here. I'm going to erase this one, and I'm going to put your spine angle here. Okay, so that's where you start. I'm going to put a nice big one. Let's take a look at where you go to the top of the swing. So pretty good, right? You're still in that spine angle, still got that lean. Everything's looking solid. You're bracing around that right hip. Now let's take a look at your way you move into it. So basically, you're going to have to slide into it now because of that forward press to reconnect it to your spine. So let's see if you slide into it a little bit. Okay, there's a little bit of that slide in. Now, if you take a look at your spine angle, it's where it should be. It's slightly forward, which is fine, right? That's where your spine angle is. So let's erase that. And now your hands are going to say, well, wait a minute. What do I need to do? I need to start turning and tilting more. So here comes that tilt, here comes that tilt. Boom! Then you strike it. So now your shoulders have tilted a little bit more, and your spine angle now is the head of the golf ball. And now if you take a look at this spine angle, this does not look like a spine angle where the hand path is promoting a downward blow. Okay, it's looking more like an upward blow. And by this I mean, your hand path from here has to go up. Right? It's not going to continue going down. So as you strike the ball, your hands are going up. So what does that mean? That something's wrong with your shoulders. So your shoulders and your hips are driving into the golf ball while your upper body's standing back because you've had that forward press. You're trying to delay your release, basically. And by delaying your release, your hand path changes from a downward path to an upward path. So hopefully that makes sense to you and you can kind of see it here. And by having an upward path, you can't release it at all because you need to have an upward path to hold that release. And then you do your best job. You see that nice high finish because that's delaying the release, high finish. So all in all, I think you have a really solid motion. I think that you're sacrificing a lot of these good positions by having that forward press. Now, if you want to forward press it, that's fine. But make sure you forward press it where your shoulders don't have to compensate to hold that release. So maybe forward press it a little bit or change your ball position slightly if you want to forward press it. I'm not saying forward pressers, there's no good forward press, plenty of good forward presses. But the thing that concerns me is that impact position. When you're trying to hold that release and tilt extra, you're going to start putting some pressure on the lower back. And I'm sure some days you might finish playing golf and you go, man, my lower back, my right lower back, something's wrong. It just doesn't feel right. So that's what I'm trying to avoid here. Let's go to the down the line. All right, man, let's take a look here now. Looks like you're ready to smoke this shot. Let's see. A little bit upward. Okay, so from this angle, we can start to see a little bit of a plane issue. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. There we go. It's nice and big. All right, so from this angle, let me just redraw that. That's a little bit too hunched over, so let's draw it about here. Okay, so this angle, we can start to look at some plane issues here. So all in all, it's a pretty good setup. There we go. Pretty good setup. A little bit toe heavy, but you know, some people play well off the toes. I play well off my toes. I can just see the heels kind of sticking up in the air, but we'll take a look at what happens here. We're going to put a little brace line on your head just to see the motion there and the back brace line. Let's take a look at the first part of your swing. Now remember, we are forward pressing, so we're going to figure out what's going on with the forward press. So halfway point, pretty close. You can see that club face is pretty close to your spine angle. You're doing pretty good. Tilting and turning. We get to the top of the plane line. We see a little bit standing up there. So you see how low your arms are. So again, your left shoulder, just like one video ago, 2 video ago maybe, your left shoulder's coming up as you turn. And I think that might just be to get more comfortable. So maybe a little bit too crouched again, and your body says, hey, I need to turn. In order to turn, I got to make room and stand up to allow me to turn. And then as a result, when you turn, your left arm goes up, then pulls your left shoulder goes up, that pulls your right arm down, because that's just how things work when they're connected. And then from here, you have to reconnect a little bit because now your plane is a little bit shallow. So as you come down through, there's that reconnection. So you go, look at your head. You go up, stand up, and then you go back down and stay down. So either set up taller and stay tall, or set up the way you are and just stay level. Try not to go up and down so much. Coming down in the slot, you do a pretty good job. The club comes from the top of the slot to below. The club goes just below the hands, which is not too bad. You would like it to go right through the hands. So let's say you're in this position here. We draw the club straight down to the golf ball, which is pretty solid. The club should follow that path, the club head. So your arms are trying to follow that path, right? But look at the club head. It's going to be lower, which tells me gravity's pulling it back down because your circle is not as straight as you would like it to be from that point. So something in the upper body's making that circle move away. Okay, so that's obviously you're starting to ride up. So when you start seeing here, now you start to come back up again. So there's just a lot of up and down, up and down. So up, down, up, and that up is causing the plane to go back down. So one causes the other. A little bit of loss of spine angle, so you can see you're coming into the target here, a little bit of spacing there. New spine angle is a little bit taller. It's really hard to stay exactly the same, but your goal is to stay as close as you can. You do a good job though coming through. So all in all, really solid swing. I think the basic fundamentals for you is ball position. You can hopefully see how that can create a little bit of chaos, and that could also cause this because you're trying to create a room to hold your turn. And so check your ball position, move it back a little bit, hands kind of reconnected to your spine, and then focus on just staying level height. I mean, you don't have to go like up and down so much because that's going to affect the plane. But hopefully that helps. And let me take a guess where you're from. Colorado. See you next. Alrighty, next up we have Patrick. Patrick, his notes are just basically any feedback. That's it. So feedback it will be. Good setup here. Everything looks fairly neutral. I can see one arm. So one arm is good because you don't want to have your shoulders kind of misaligned. Let's take a look at the motion. Whoa. Man, you gotta get a new look at this camera. So this is gonna be a tough one here because I don't know if we can do much with this. There's a little bit of a shaking going on, but we'll take these lines away because that's a little bit pointless right now. So let's take these lines away. Let's do our best to see what's going on here. Okay, a little bit laid off. Laid off causes you to throw back over. Yeah, so there's a plane issue. And arms are coming in. While you're laid off, okay, so arm path is going away from the body instead of towards the body as you turn. So it's definitely an arm path issue. Arm path is probably much higher at the top plane. You can see how high that arms are. Okay, so, without me getting vertigo looking at this thing jumping around, I can see already that it's basically, you do a pretty good job turning your body. However, your arms are pushing away from your body as you're turning. So you're increasing the distance between your hands and your arms a little bit too soon. And while you're doing that, now all of a sudden momentum is going to take that club and start being laid off because it needs to be laid off to get close to your plane. So you've learned to have a laid off position. Now when it's laid off and you're trying to get the club back on plane, the only way to do that is to throw your hands back over, which will send your path of your club more out to in, which is a path left, and your arms and everything are going too close to your body. So best way I can imagine this or give you a feeling is, put your arms close to your body, pretend like you're holding a ball, and then just basically turn and tilt. So that's how far your arms should be. They should remain with your position. Your arms at the start position look fairly good. I mean, they're hanging pretty straight. Maybe you can be a little bit closer with your feet, a couple inches closer, and kind of feel more centered. But definitely you want more of a one-piece turn. You want things to be connected to your chest. And by you disconnecting right away, you have to reconnect and throw, which gives you a path left and the club face. If the club face is open slightly, that ball is going so far right, it's hitting a couple houses and a couple pools, assuming there's pools here. By the way, I don't know if I guessed where you're from, but let's just go Florida. Let's take a look from face on. All right, Patrick, so hopefully the camera work is a little bit smoother here. Man, it's still a little bit I know it looks windy. All right, it's a little bit better. At least don't have to reconnect a bunch. Okay, so let's start with your setup here. So I'm not sure what club you are using, but it looks like a mid to high iron. Let's just say high iron, 7 iron, 8 iron, something like that. Let's take a look at the way your weighting is. The weighting looks very stacked on the left side, almost like stack and tilt. Your shoulders got some tilting going on here. Good. And then we take a look at your spine. So the spine is, again, ahead of the golf ball, forcing you to forward press a little bit. Now, again, it could be the angle. I mean, if this is slightly from this view, it gives you a different perception. I'm going to assume it's straight on, but let's take a look at the motion here. Okay, you can see the right hip jutting out. So the right hip's going over that brace line. And then as you come back into it, no. So as you take that club back, the right hip is doing pretty good here. Then it breaks as well. So you see that line I drew here, that's your brace line. You want to turn around that, you don't want to break it. So you break it, and it could be because you're so stacked on your lead side, most of your weight's there, you're not really shifting your upper body as you turn. So you can see look how much torque this whole left side has. You can see all the creases in your shirt and your legs. Everything is so stacked on that left side. Your tilting is increased, and again, we know you're laid off. So once you get to here, you can see your hips are like pointing down. Now, do they right themselves we'll take a look. As you come into it, now you're driving it. Okay, you're definitely opening up the hips, which is nice. The shoulders are still pretty close. Now they're about even. Man, you get a lot of turn. Look at that. That's a huge X factor. Striking the golf ball. They meet up with the hands. Pretty good. I think you might have caught this a little heavy. Because look at that delayed release. I mean, that's just absorbing. You know, there's no release there because all you did was hit ground. So when you are seeing you're hitting so much ground, that still shows me that you're tilting and your weighting is too far on your left side, your lead side. So you start stacked up on the left side, then you start that right hip bows out, which makes you stack even more on your left side. And from here, you know, just a slight move left and you're trying to unstack, because you're so tilted, you're really coming down into the ground. So I would imagine you take these massive divots. You can see the shaft flex at impact. It must hurt your wrist sometimes. And the only way out of that is to really tilt the other way. So you go from this tilt and you might have to start tilting the other way to avoid you from hitting these heavy divots, or you might have to start turning a lot. And neither of those are good when you're so stacked on that left side. So definitely feel more neutral, feel more athletic. Make those changes with the way your hands move away from your body and kind of keep them closer to you. If you want to do stack and tilt, that's fine, you know, but make sure you go with a stack and tilt coach that can help you to make sure your body's correct for that. I was a stack and tilt person. It wasn't good for my body and I had to switch back to more traditional. So it's always good to experiment, but make sure someone's watching you. All right. Hope that helps you, and I hope you kind of see. And tripods, they're on sale. It's pretty cheap. Next up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, we have Thomas. So Thomas, let's take a look. A few issues come up. His good power in his swing. He misses a heavy shot, which is frustrating. Of course, we all know that. Pull hook from time to time with a lower launch angle. He says he doesn't really know how the golf swing works. If it's more up and down, twist and fire. So yeah, you're right. I mean, there's no one way to swing the golf club. There's no one way to do anything really. You can hit the ball from anywhere. You can hit it from backwards if you want. I played a tour event one day with a guy that would play left hand low, and he was a righty, and he would aim 50 yards to the right, and he would just find a way to get the ball in the hole, and he shot 66. So there's plenty of ways to do things correctly and incorrectly and still hit the golf ball. So it's whatever works for you. So make sure that you're working with somebody that knows your range of motion, that knows your body style, that can adapt to their teaching philosophy. But the way I look at these swings is I just look at what I see, not knowing if you have range of motion issues, but then I look at what I see and I make suggestions of what I see cause and effect to limit your cause and effect. So hopefully this will help you, and let's just get started and see what's going on. So let's draw your low plane line, your upper plane line, and it's going to be hard for me to guess where you're from, but your last name is Di Giuseppe, so let's just say Italy. Why not? Okay, let me know. And head brace line, arms look a little bit too far away right off the bat. Alignment looks pretty good. You look pretty straight in terms of where your feet, your shoulders, and your hips are. Taking the club back. Yeah, I see the rocking already. So you're starting to stack on your left side, and your head's moving into the golf ball as a result. Arms are going to be pretty low. Yeah, low and long. Now, low and long, it's going to be hard for you to time back into it. You coming into the target now, it's going to be really hard to hold that posture, because you need to strike down on the golf ball with a low hand position. To strike down the ball is really hard. So you're gonna have to get your hands and arms involved and try and re-contour yourself. So yeah, you lose a lot of posture, and it's definitely, you got to get this plane higher. So if you see your plane, I mean your club's coming in from over here, that's almost impossible to hit down on the ball. You know, so the way the golf club works, the iron, you know, you have to strike down on the ball, and the iron has a sole plate with a bounce, and that bounce helps you hit down on the ball with the leading edge to cut the turf, and the club will bounce up so we won't break your wrist. But you're almost hitting this like a driver. You're trying to shallow it out and hit up on the ball. So I would imagine heavy shots, thin shots, contact issues, all in all. All right, and let me just take a look at your spine angle. So I put that back brace line. I'm going to do a bigger one because that's kind of hard to see. So there's your back brace line. And then as you come into the golf ball, you can see how much posture you're lost. So you've moved into the golf ball. So if you start here, you can maybe put, you know, a hand width between your hands and your hips. But by the time you come into impact, you know, you've moved more than a hand width. So your path of your hands are now being shoved out ahead of you, plus the club's coming from below. So I would imagine contact's probably not a very consistent thing for you. And as a result, there's that flip and you try to create room by standing up, you see your new spine angle is much taller, and you moved in, so you've essentially crunched like an accordion into the golf ball, running out of room, and that relies on your hands and arms to really flip under it. So a couple of things that might help you here is getting a one-piece takeaway and lifting your arms from the first plane to the second plane. So I'll kind of explain what I mean here. So if you start from this position, as you take that club back, you're doing pretty good here, right? We have to look at the front view to see how much you're tilting, but it looks like you're tilting into the target, but you're looking pretty good here. So establish more turn. If you can get more turn, that's great. And then from here, you need to feel like your hands and arms are going straight up to the sky, and that'll help you get higher. So now you can descend, your club can descend and strike down. You can use it like a tool. Your irons are a tool, your putters are a tool, your fairway woods are your tool, your hybrids are a tool, your drivers are a tool. Every tool needs to be swung differently, but we don't swing them differently. All we do is change the setup. Now, a driver, you want to change the setup accordingly, so you swing on the upswing. An iron, you want to set up accordingly, so you swing on the downswing. And just understanding how both of these work and what we're trying to accomplish is the goal. So the way you're set up now with an iron is really hard because you're not using the tool correctly. You're basically taking a paintbrush and trying to hammer in a nail. You can do it, but it'll take you a long time. So, let's just stick with using the tool correctly. So let's go to your down the line and see if that'll help you. Okay, so let's make this nice. Okay, so what we're going to do here is already I can see some weighting issue. So there's that back brace line. Here's your impact line. So there's not much room impact line. You can see most of your weight is kind of stuck at that golf ball. Now it could be because that ball position's up ahead, but it doesn't look too bad. I prefer to see slightly ahead than slightly back because at least you can have the room to strike down and turn. But you can still see a lot of that weight is on your lead side. So as a result, let's see what happens. Okay, so you don't tilt as much as I thought you did. You did a pretty good job. The knees, however, that left knee's buckling in. Now once that left knee buckles in, so your left knees basically report to me what your hips are doing. So if you go here and you join one knee to the next knee, that means your hips are doing the exact same thing. So now you can see most of your weight is pushing down to here. You can imagine if I just pour water on this, where's that water going to go? It's going to falter down really quickly. So a lot of this weight is kind of stuck on this left foot. Now when the weight is stuck on the left foot, you don't have anything to push off on. Now the idea is to get the weight to be stuck over here. Now that doesn't mean that we have to tilt our hips the other way, but if you can level it out, level your knees out, which will level your hips out. We want a slight hip tilt. We don't want to have such a big hip tilt that we have to now do the other way on the way down. So you want to feel like they're level while you turn a little bit more and get that power more on the inside of your right foot. Now you can push off on something and you can hold your ground by pushing off into that back left heel. But since you don't really have anything to push off on, we'll see what happens. So there goes that just unwinding from the top. So you're trying to unwind. All of a sudden, at impact, you've leant a little bit more over. Your hands are trying to stay connected with your power source. So they do a fairly good job of staying connected with the power source. So they get there, but look at how active they are. They go from a wide open club face, which is a few frames before impact, to square, to wide closed. And it's not really a release too. You can see this breakdown here. That's almost a cast, where you're starting to cast that right arm. Let me try and find the camera. Trying to cast the right arm and do this instead of releasing. So it does affect your release point. It does affect casting. It does affect the relationship between your hands and your body. So everything needs to be a little bit more tighter connected. So for you, think more up and down like a piston, not so much around. So hopefully that helps. Hope you can put the pieces together. Let me know about Italy, and then also let me know in the comment box if you want to clarify some of this stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks once again for joining me for episode 24. 25 will be up in a few days, hopefully. If not, it will be 3 or 4 days, but have patience. If you did like that, hit that like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, and I'll be uploading more content as we go through the next couple of months. We'll do a lot of playing videos out there, so if you have any ideas for content, let me know, and I'll get right to it. Thanks a lot, guys. Fairways and green.